My mom was born in Chamacoro, Guanajuato, Mexico on February 10th, 1975, to Eloisa Rubio Ramirez and Gonzalo Lopez Sandoval. She has 9 siblings, 6 brothers and 3 sisters, and she is the 6th child. She came from a poor family, so as a kid all she did was play outside with her siblings. In 1993, she came to the U.S. for the first time. It all started when she was writing a letter to her grandmother, who lived in Texas. The letter was from her mom, but since she couldn't read or write, she wrote it for her. At the bottom of the letter, without her mother's consent, she wrote, "And Sonia wants to go live with you." A few months later, her grandmother showed up and said, "I'm here for Sonia." Her mom had no idea what she was talking about, so she was surprised, but in the end, she let her go. So on September 1993, Sonia crossed the Mexican-American border and arrived at Edinburg, Texas. She lived with her grandmother for 8 months, but then in April, she decided to return to Mexico for her hometown's Fiesta de Mayo. After the big party was over, she decided to return to the U.S., this time with her sister Blanca. It took them 3 tries in the same amount of days, but they finally managed to cross the border. On July 4th, 1994, Sonia and Blanca arrived at Willits, California. Sonia had been living with her sister for 7 months when she met Filiberto Carrillo at a party. He asked her to dance, and she said no, because she didn't know him. The next day, he managed to get her number and called her. They started dating, and after 3 months, he asked her to move in with him to Windsor, California. She said she wouldn't move in with him until they got married, and so he proposed. On April 1995, they moved to Windsor, California, and on September 3rd, 1995, they got married. They had their first child, Natalie, on March 21st, 1996. 2 years later, they had their second child, Adrian, on January 17th, 1998. Their last child, Camila, was born 6 years later on June 28th, 2004. On 2008, her grandmother got terminal cancer and she went to say her goodbyes. On April 19th, 2008, Sonia and her youngest daughter, Camila, arrived at Edinburg, Texas. Unfortunately, the next day, her grandmother passed away. A week later, on her way back, she was detained by the INS for being an illegal immigrant. She was released 2 days later to try to fight her case. She returned to Windsor, California, and started her search for a lawyer. It wasn't until 3 years later, on November of 2011, she finally obtained her legal residence. Finally, in the summer of 2012, she returned to visit her hometown, after 20 years of first crossing the border.